Senator Johnny Isakson is the chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, and we're lucky enough to have him on set. And a happy Veterans Day. You're also a veteran, so thank you for your service. What was that service precisely?
Georgia Air National Guard, 1966 to 1972.
And so what did you do when you were serving?
I was an AS-27430 command and control specialist.
Wow, that's good.
I still remember.
You still got all the letters and numbers, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Must have been quite a time. I want to ask you a little bit about what's going on with the Veteran Affairs Department in general. I asked some of our viewers while the president was speaking today at Arlington, just anecdotally, those on social media, has their experience at the VA improved over the last year and a half since the scandal broke? And many of them said it hadn't. Why is that? Because the president and as well as the Secretary of Veterans Affairs is saying that there's been some improvements, but it seems like some veterans aren't feeling it.
There has been improvement, but it's a work in progress. There are 6.5 million veterans in VA health care. There are 314,000 professionals in VA healthcare delivering those services. Those are big numbers. When you get a ship of state that big, it's hard to turn it, get the rudder to work, but we're doing a good job. Choice is working much better than even we predicted. We have seen 7.5 million more veterans for appointments this year in the first 9 months than we did last year because of choice. So we haven't got it perfected, but we're making great progress.
And that, when you're speaking of choice, that was during the scandal that the veterans were allowed to be able to choose a little bit more of their own health care. Do I have that right? Is that a program that's continuing?
It's a program we've actually magnified. It has worked so well. Veterans, if they live more than 40 miles away from a clinic, or they can't get an appointment within 30 days, they automatically can go to the private sector and get an appointment with any VA-approved, Medicare-approved doctor in the community.
I'm curious how you approach this obstacle. One of the issues with the Veterans Affairs when it comes to the health care specifically was that some of the numbers were not accurate, meaning that we saw an exaggeration or lack of exaggeration as far as wait list times at certain veterans hospitals, for example. And there's allegations that those wait listed times actually led to deaths of veterans. And so the numbers were hard to figure out what's accurate and what's not. And how are you approaching that challenge now as someone with oversight of what's going on?
The numbers weren't accurate, and when I took over as chairman of the committee, I called the Department of Justice and said, I want to prosecute anybody who's doing this criminally, because it's a crime to make the numbers look good so you get a raise and a veteran dies. The first indictment was a Georgia employee at Charlie Norwood VA Hospital in Augusta, Georgia. We're slowly but surely making those indictments. Slowly but surely the word's getting out and people are being held accountable.
I'm curious about that because in Doug McCullough's report just a few minutes ago, he said, some of these people are still on paid leave 18 months after these scandals broke. But you're saying that there's going to be some more criminal prosecutions of a few of these individuals.
And that's what it's going to take. If it's a criminal act, we ought to do it criminally, but also you've got so many union contracts with so many of the VA employees. They have due diligence and things you have to go through, so it's hard to fire somebody in the VA. We're making the changes where we can hold people accountable and take the action we need to take.
I want to ask you just a little bit about the debate last night as well, because Veterans Affairs comes in when it's about foreign policy. And two of your colleagues, of course, were on the debate stage, and they had very different ideas when it came to foreign policy and engagement in general. So let's just listen to a little bit of the sound from the debate last night.
I think it's going to be a good idea to have a no-fly zone of Iraq. Realize that means you are saying we are going to shoot down Russian planes. If you're ready for that, be ready to send your sons and daughters to another war in Iraq. I don't want to see that happen. I think the first war in Iraq was a mistake. You can be strong without being involved in every civil war around the world.
Soon they'll be in Turkey, they'll try Jordan, they'll try Saudi Arabia. They are coming for us. They recruit Americans using social media. And they don't hate us simply because we support Israel. They hate us because of our values. They hate us because our girls go to school. They hate us because women drive in the United States. Either they win or we win. We better take this risk seriously. It is not going away on its own.
Thank you.
Two new voices, relatively new voices in the Senate. As I mentioned, you work with both of these individuals. Which side do you come down upon? Who do you believe has the right philosophy of those two choices?
7 months ago in this stage, I was asked the same question. My answer is still the same. With ISIL, somebody that will cut your head off or burn somebody in the town square, you can't negotiate with them. You got to kill them. And you can't do it without troops on the ground. Not a ground war like we had in Iraq or Afghanistan, but special operations forces to take the heat to them. Until we begin to make them pay the price for what they've done, they will run rampant. Marco Rubio is right.
Senator, it's nice to have you on the program. And again, happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. John?